When you think of Kentucky, I think a lot of what probably comes to mind first is things like caves, farmland, bit of lakes over here, some rivers, of course, going up the top part. And I think a really big part of the state lies over here in the east, where we have the mountains. And today, I would like to kind of dive into this eastern half of the state and build a house inspired by it. I've wanted to do some East United States inspired building for a while, and I thought there'd be no better place to start than my home state. So, I've pulled up a few reference photos. I started by going through, kind of zooming in here, and just dropping pins all over the place. I mean, there's hundreds of roads to look at. Um, like here, for example, where I just accidentally dropped this. And I wanted to focus mostly on building a lower income style home because that's what I'm most familiar with. I mean, when you look up Eastern Kentucky homes, you're going to see a lot of things like this. Very small, sometimes very run down, derelict, cute, very cute. I have a huge soft spot for homes like this. I went on Zillow to find some references. I sorted low to high. You know, you see a lot of foreclosures, a lot of places where they've just been abandoned, people have moved on, they haven't packed up. A lot of kind of sad, impoverished situations. Um, you know, a lot of older homes, you can really tell what decade this was built in. But very beautiful and very nostalgic nonetheless. Um, I mean, this yard, I feel like you know how many people I've known in my life who've had a yard like this. Um, and I just wanted to highlight this part of the state. I think it gets a lot of recognition nowadays, especially, but I kind of wanted to highlight it in more of an endearing type of way. You see so many horror stories, so many sad things about, you know, poor hillbillies who live up in the mountains. But, you know, as someone who used to be a little bit of a poor hillbilly myself, I think I have a very different perspective of it. So, let's just go ahead and jump into the build. I had sort of a basic idea in mind. Starting out, I knew that I wanted very small, 1 or 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, the kind of house that you see, you know, 5 generations go through. Um, I had a lot of friends growing up. I had myself growing up who lived in houses like these, and they can just be so quaint and cute despite being a little more rundown. Um, but here, I'm just kind of putting down my basic shape. I really didn't struggle much with it because honestly, I build houses like this all the time in my own personal gameplay. I think this cottage style house is my most comfortable style of build. Probably because I go drive down the road and that's what I see. I knew from the start that I wanted this white siding with a red metal roof. We recently drove down to Tennessee, over on Eastern Tennessee, which shares a lot of similarities with Eastern Kentucky, obviously. Same geographical area, Appalachian Mountains, all of that. And I kept seeing these really beautiful little farmhouses that had this white siding and red roofing, or, you know, blue roofing, green, a whole bunch of different colors. So I wanted to definitely emulate that. You see I put a red door in. That's kind of an homage to one of the houses I lived in. We had a very red door, and then we had a very blue door. I think the colorful front door, you probably see quite a bit. Then I just go through and kind of mark out the floor plan. Took me just a couple tries, and I ended up fitting 2 bedrooms in. Um, Something I don't know if I see this a lot with other builders. I love to include closets. I prefer to build a little more realistically. Like none of the things I build are intended for gameplay as much as they are just to be little art pieces, I guess. So I like to have closets in most rooms, pantries, all that sort of thing. Laundry rooms, because I'm not playing in it. It would be probably annoying if I was, but I'm not playing in it. Um, so then you get to watch me struggle to put all the doors in. Just basic lighting. Painting the house itself, so easy. I kind of just came in with a vision already in my head and did it, and it looked perfect on first try. And that's probably because I knew I wanted it to be a little ugly on purpose. Ugly in huge air quotes. I think you'll see in a second here. I think it's adorable. Um, it's very gaudy and dated. The story I kind of had in mind for the people who lived here is that this is just a family home, and you know, they're not the most well off, and they're not dirt poor, but they're not redoing the wallpaper. They're not getting hardwood. They're not doing any of that. So you have all the original wallpapers and carpeting. Um, I think I'm just about done with the exterior of the house minus landscaping, which I'm going to do last, of course. Um, put in some cute flower pots on the windows. I wish now that I'd gone back and done a few more on the back, but the back of the house doesn't matter. You don't see that, you just see the front. I love adding little vents and all those little knickknacks, gutters, things like that to the sides of the house. I think it adds the perfect touch of realism. I'm finally doing the flooring and everything. I picked this beautiful green carpet, which is just so horrible to think about today. I mean, it's like pine green. And I actually had that in my bedroom at my grandparents'. I mean, I still have it, they still live there. And I hated it growing up. I thought it was so hideous. But now, now that I'm older and it's kind of just more nostalgic than anything, I wouldn't change it for the world. Maybe get new carpet, but the green. I love that green. And I love this tile in here. I know it's kind of like, it's so base game that it almost seems default and not in a good way. But I mean, it is kind of a default flooring. I can almost like feel this sticky linoleum under my feet if I just think about it. Very colorful bathroom. Wood rim toilet seat, of course. I kind of struggled with the window placement, and it's a little weird from the outside, but again, with these more realistic houses, it's gonna be weird. They weren't thinking about how good the sides and the back looked when they were building these. I mean, a lot of these houses, I feel like, while they have a lot of thought put into the craftsmanship, I think you see a lot of houses in this region that were kind of just made. You need a shelter, you need a roof, you need a place to fit you and your family. And a lot of these people, they probably didn't have the time, resources, money to put a lot of space and I guess the things that you see in houses that are like a couple tax brackets above, which I would love to build someday. I'd love to do kind of a middle class and then an upper class home because Kentucky also has a lot of really interesting, like, Victorian architecture. I think you see that in a lot of towns. Um, Here the living room came together really easily. You just get a patterned couch and you're kind of set. A nice little old TV. I wanted to put a lot of linen and pillows, blankets, because I think, it's kind of like this is like your grandma's house. I knew a lot of people who lived with their grandparents for various reasons, and so I loved the look of having this person living here who's obviously older, a lot of old grandma-ish things, and then also children's things. Um, Again, just very nostalgic, very homey. I liked how the laundry room came out a lot. Very simple, but very cute. There I go, putting more blankets in the closet. I debated doing closet doors, but I wasn't too sure how I felt about it. I think I'm okay with them being open. I think that's kind of you know, it could or it couldn't be. If I did closet doors, I probably would do the inside of the closets though. So maybe it's good that I didn't. I leave them blank a lot, but this time I thought, well, if I'm recording it, I might as well decorate them. I do fill in the pantry, but I wait until the very last second. I don't know why, I think I forgot. And I usually, when I'm doing a personal build, I'll use custom content, but I decided for this one to not use any. And honestly, it's because I didn't want to clean up my folder. So maybe next time I'll do some CC building, but this time it was just, base game, base packs. I have what I have. I'm not interested in buying any more Sims packs at the moment for many, many reasons. But what I have worked perfectly. I'm sure as you saw, I did a children's bedroom. Did a lot of purple, pink, super girly colors, kind of clashing. Because again, that's just, how I remember growing up. I had a super pink girly bedroom when I was little in this big, old house. And I just remember the contrast between you walk in and it's like pink walls and princess motifs and butterfly curtains. Um, I think that's a pretty normal experience though, in most families, in most places. And I'm gonna go back through and clutter this up a little bit. I'm just laying down carpets, curtains, carpets, and here I start cluttering. And the way I like to do it is I go through each category and just scroll top to bottom and pull stuff out for each room. I think it's a lot less overwhelming and I'm not missing things as much as I would if I did it room by room. I used to do it room by room and it just took forever. And now I'm putting in some like cobwebs, scratches, a little bit of mold. It's a clean house, but again, we're a little economically disadvantaged. So you're not fixing every little scratch and dent. In a house this old, you're gonna have quite a few of those. Now you can see I'm finally cluttering the little girl's room. I thought I had kind of a mix of like, girly stuff, but also tomboyish stuff. Because in an area like this, assuming this is Kentucky, you're gonna be outside. Playing in the woods, playing in the holler, climbing up mountains, all sorts of stuff. So, she has her interest. She likes pop music. She likes playing with her dolls, but she also likes to go out and run around the woods for a little bit. I had the hardest time picking furniture for the grandmother's bedroom, and I ended up leaving it a little bit barren because I think, she probably spends more time in the living room than anything. Bedrooms are more for sleeping. So I put a little bit of like old canvases in there. She's just using it for storage. She's got an old beat up mirror. And also, something that drives me crazy about this game, why don't we have a good ceiling fan? that's base game. I don't understand why the only ceiling fan is that big, ugly palm leaf one, which works for like porches and, of course, like, I guess, beachy builds. But I just want like a good, plain ceiling fan. Is it so hard to ask for? And then I'm just gonna do I did some vines on the outside of the house. We used to have vines on the outside of my house growing up. Again, I'm gonna tie a lot of this back to my experience, but we had to cut them down a lot because, you know, they get into the stone and break it apart. But they look really cute, and in The Sims, we don't have to worry about them. I cluttered up the kitchen pretty good this time, I think. You're gonna see I kind of just throw things all over the counter. I'm gonna go back and move them, you know, bit by bit. Put some clutter in the girls' bedroom. Things like clothes, makeup on the floor. You know, you remember when you were little and you would sit on the floor and do your makeup. And this is probably play makeup. I don't think she's old enough to have real makeup. But I'm almost done cluttering. Again, I just go through every single item. Takes quite a while, but it looks pretty good in the end. I wanted it to look lived in and a little bit messy, but not dirty. And it's sort of funny because I thought it was going to end up a lot dirtier when I initially started. But as I worked through and as I kind of felt out the personality of the home, it just didn't seem like it fit as much to have it be dirty and run down. So I guess that means I need to do another build that is maybe a bit more of like a neglected home. Because I would love to do more of these. This is the kind of thing I do in my spare time for fun. So I might as well share it if I'm already doing it. Cottage living comes with so many perfect items for this as well. So many cute floral prints on things. It's kind of like if an antique store exploded into a house, you know? Cannot forget the landline, of course. And I wish it had gone in the kitchen, but you know, living room is second best option. You can see me alt placing everything. Kind of a hassle, but not too bad in this kitchen. I've had some where it's just absolutely nightmarish. And I didn't pull out debug because I just didn't want to fool with it this time. And then I'm gonna go redo all the lighting, fill in the closets. I ended up not changing the lighting much in this build because, if I'm honest, it was winter in my actual game and I didn't realize, and I don't have cheats installed at the moment, and I just could not be bothered to wait for it to be spring or summer. So the lighting is going to stay kind of neutral, but all the lamps that I put in are fairly warm. So that basically makes up for the interior of the house. I just put in a few more lamps, put the same lights back in the closet. Finally, do the pantry. Again, a little scarce because I don't have my pantry pack. But one of these days, I'll do a very cluttered, very custom content build. And then here comes landscaping. Nothing really special here. Just a few big trees. And then I'm going to fill the entire place with flowers and bushes. I'd like to imagine we have a bit of a gardening thing going on here. I did put a nice little rocking chair on the porch, just one, because I couldn't get two to fit, so I just did one. And I think it looks pretty cute. I tried to fit a bike in here. It kept going up on the foundation, and I didn't want to deal with it, so it went against a tree. Which, if you think about it, you know, if you're like 11, where else are you going to put your bike? And I forgot to mention I'm building this in Copperdale, which it was between Copperdale and Moonlight Mill, I think is the Werewolf's World. That's what it's called, right? Moonlight Mill, that sounds right. You would think after having as many hours as I do in this game, I would know that by now, but I don't play there a lot. It's uh, a little too West Coast for me, personally. I like my region where I'm at. So, and I think that eventually I'd like to branch out and do some more Western builds. Um, I'm very enamored by like the East Coast. Yeah, I've lived here my whole life, and all I want to do is build it and represent it because I think it could always use more of that. I think that I think my state can be pretty misunderstood at times. And then I'm just gonna put some decaying branches and whatnot on the roof. Some lights, porch light, of course. I think, I don't know if I already have, but I do eventually throw in some fireflies, which you don't actually see because I never go into live mode. I should have just made a new save. I thought my old building save would have been fine, but I forgot I was doing a Christmas build last time. So we started in winter. But that's alright. Then I just run through the house, do a quick look around, and that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching and sticking around to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time with another build from another state or region. Goodbye!